Well, it looks like we have a full review of Ryzen's 1400 CPU. Stay tuned. Apparently El Chapuza's Informatica has done it again. I originally saw the article at Video Cards which referenced over to them, but either way, they've got a pretty nice review of the upcoming Ryzen 5 1400, once again falling to the retailers who sold Ryzen prior to the release. So the Ryzen 5 1400 is the lowest tier Ryzen 5 chip, but offers a nice price with the potential of being just as great of a deal as the 1700, since it should be able to overclock nearly where the more expensive 1500X can. Either way, it's a 4-core, 8-thread chip with a base clock of 3.2 GHz and boost of 3.4. They used a similar test bench as before with one exception that should see those concerned with memory at least become a little at ease. While it's not a 3200, they did get it to 2933. Now, with all of this said, they didn't have an i5 to test, which is fine, but unfortunately we can't really make too many comparisons, at least in their benchmarks. Though we obviously have synthetics because those are public knowledge. So let's go through a couple of those first. Keep in mind, if you want to see all the benchmarks, head over there, I'll have a link in the description. Lastly, before I go over these synthetics, let's discuss the pricing comparisons. The 1400 comes in at $169. The closest comparison in terms of cores, etc. is the i5 7400, which currently costs $194. Keep in mind that the 1400 has an unlocked multiplier while the 7400 does not, but it does have a boost clock up to 3.5 GHz. The first benchmark is single core performance, which in this area the i5 inches out the win, but as you can see they don't offer any reference for the 1400 with the overclock on the slide. Yet they state the 1400 completes the test in 38.795 seconds at 3.8 GHz, which actually puts this processor in an interesting place. There are arguments for the higher single core performance of say the i5 6700K against the higher tier Ryzen models, but at this price, against Intel, it has even better single-core performance. You then add the fact that it has 4 threads more, you're in an interesting place. Now, those 4 threads aren't enough to make such a difference as the 4-core and 8-thread difference the Ryzen 7 has going against its competition, the i7, but with better single-core performance, that's interesting. That's assuming the i5 is running with its turbo boost on, but I see no reason why it wouldn't be. They stated reference speed, but these are merely synthetic results from other people's tests. Either way, let's move on to a multi-core bench. Cinebench puts it with stock speeds above the 7600K running at 4.2 GHz, which shows the potential of SMT. They state that once overclocked it exceeds the i5 with ease and approaches the older i7s, but once again, they didn't show it. Next up, we do see the memory latency is quite high, once again probably held back by the Infinity fabric. It is good to note that they updated the 1600 with higher frequency RAM, but because this is more focused on the 1400, I'm just going to ignore that for now. Head on over there to get that information. Before I get into gaming benchmarks, let's talk overclocking. I stated 3.8 earlier, but they were able to get it up to 3.9, but it needed more tuning. There were some issues. One thing to consider is that they did it with the stock cooler, though it became more audible at full load. Don't get too excited though. That is really amazing to say the least, but it doesn't mean you'll get far more with a beefier cooler. Ryzen 7 showed us you can't really get past 4 GHz, and I see no reason why you would now. And yes, that includes Ryzen 5 having less cores than Ryzen 7. Still, very impressive. Don't forget, this is a $169 CPU. Okay, so let's get to some real world benchmarks. As stated earlier, they don't have the i5, plus they don't seem to discuss the clock, so I'd assume these are boost clock speeds, which means this will be tough to say for sure, but let's go over them anyway. I'll just show them while I talk, but basically as you can see the 1400 seems to have nearly identical performance to its older siblings. This should place it right around the i5's performance, but don't forget some recent benchmarks we discussed before. CPU load was far less on the 1400, though I'm really not sure why, as many games typically utilize 8 threads. I really just think it goes to purely optimization, but it's tough to say for sure. So what does this mean for the 1400? Really, we need more gaming benchmarks to say for sure, but it's certainly looking great. We know it seems very much on par with the 7400 once overclocked to 3.8 GHz, but there was also room to spare. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my 1400 gaming benchmarks video. Either way, the 1400 is certainly shaping up to be a great price to performance CPU. So hopefully you liked the video. Don't forget to check out my giveaway I'm having that will end at the end of the month. And all you have to do is make sure you're subscribed and visit the link in the description for your chance to win one of 5 $20 gift cards. That does it for now. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe by clicking on the round icon in the middle. You can check out the most recent video and suggest a video to the left. Thanks so much for coming, and as always, have a great day.